Hey folks, welcome back to another Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Gempire, Zarmund's Demands, which is brought to you by Gym Time Games. It's for 3 to 5 players, ages 14 and up, and games usually run about 60 to 90 minutes. Gempire is a strategic hidden action city building board game with different victory conditions virtually every time you play. King Zarmund is holding a grand competition to decide his new capital city. He makes 3 random demands at the beginning of the game. The first architect to satisfy any 2 of these 3 demands wins the game. And in this game, you'll never have to wait your turn. That's right, every player uses their own secret planning dry erase book to choose their actions every round, and the entire group reveals their choices simultaneously. Using your secret Gempire planning book and your unpredictable wit, build up your city's population, gold, culture, and science, and try to meet King Zarmund's random demands in ways that your friends never saw coming. Upgrade your city, renovate your palace, and discover technologies that give you a leg up on your opponents. Most of all, let none of them predict what you are writing. Always try to stay one step ahead and be the one laughing maniacally when the books fly open. This game is purely a battle of brains, and it's up to you to outsmart your friends to gain the victory. First, let's take a look at the different areas around the board here. We have our 3 demand cards. This is what the king requires. 2 of those have to be met in order for the game to come to an end. Now, again, these are going to be vastly different every time you play. I have the first 3 in play here, the ones they recommend you start with. And then you have the buildings board, where you'll be gathering buildings through the course of the game. You have your different rewards for building palaces. And you have your science board. You'll be leveling up here, and eventually you'll be able to spend your points. Not really spend them, but your points will allow you to lock into some of these different types of technologies that you can put your cube on. And there'll be different costs based on who got the first slot, second, third, and fourth. So that's a really interesting aspect. But again, like the demand cards, the science, the technology cards are going to be different every time you play. And then we have our dice, which will be representing 2 different resources. You have production, which is the coins that you need in order to build buildings. And then you also have science, which will allow you to move up the science track. It's really that simple in collecting those different resources. And then we have different gems and diamonds. Diamonds for the different buildings and palace upgrades that you're doing. And then you have gold, which is represented by gold. And then you have purple, which is your culture, and green for your population. We'll get to what all those different things mean. Now, of course, you, the players, have some items as well. You have your planning book, which is a dry erase board. Now, at the top of the board, you'll see some information about the round and what actions will be available to you, as well as some additional information. Now, below that, though, is where you're going to be keeping track of things. First row, we have some different things here, like your population, your gold, and your culture. Then the next row is resources. So when you gather resources from the dice pool, you'll mark it here and do the appropriate actions based on that. And then you have this row down below, A, B, and C. This is where you're going to be bidding, if you choose on your turn to bid for the buildings that are in play. And finally, each player receives a culture flag, their colored tokens or cubes, and a palace token that you'll be using through the course of the game. Every round of the game consists of really 3 phases. Now, the first phase is simply rolling the dice, showing what resources are going to be available. Secondly, all players simultaneously, in secret, on their player boards will choose one of the 3 available actions. The first 2 are pretty basic. Firstly, you can choose just to get the resources that were rolled. Secondly, you can bid on a building in the A, B, or C slot. You always know what's coming in that next building, though, in the next round as those get purchased and so forth, and then put into play. And lastly is upgrading your city. Now, that's a little more complicated, so let's take a look at those first 2 initially. And what you're going to do to collect the resources is that you'll go to your player board and just write down what is there, and that's what you're going to collect. You'll get the coins and move up the science track. Now, in the case you see here, we have 4 production and 2 science available. You would simply mark that on your player board. And it's important to note that at the beginning of the game, the max production you can hold is 5 coins. So through the course of the game, obviously you can upgrade that through your population, and that's all clear on your player boards. But we'll talk about how those values come into play once you get buildings out there. So buildings, you might have chosen to bid on a building. Now, all these 3 actions, you can only get to do one of them on your turn. So you go after the buildings A, B, and C. You'll see in the bottom right corner of those buildings, there is a minimum number that you have to bid to go for those. Now, it does also indicate how rare that card might be and how popular that card might be as you try to bid for those different things that are out there. So if you bid and you tie with someone, whoever has the highest science value will win that bid. Whoever lost that bid will still have to pay one of their production coins for just being part of the bidding process. So then you're going to take the card that you won from the building and place it in a tableau in your player area. So as you acquire these building cards and put them into play, they are going to give your city different attributes, abilities. So green ones are going to give you population, gold is gold, and the purple is going to be culture. So as you gather those and put them into play in your main city row, you'll be able to add to your totals and so forth. Now there's restrictions around how you do some of this. As you put the different colors into play, you're creating districts. So if you've got purple on one end, green on the other, and gold in the middle, you can no longer add any more gold. You're just going to be adding purple and green onto your particular city. Now, you will get a chance in the upgrade city action to add a second row, but that's the most you can do when you do put those cards into play and so forth. But those are going to give you attributes and add them to your player board. It's a running tally through the course of the game. So why are these city attributes so important? Well, for every 10 that you collect or you add to your player board, you're going to get a gem. So for green, population gems will allow you to hold more production, more coins. For gold, it allows you to change the value just for you of dice that were rolled so you can do different types of resources. And for culture, this is the key one. For every one of those that you get, you can put on your culture board to boost your ability to get these different end goals that the king has put out there. And it will just do various things based on the card. You'll have to see what it is and how many different ones you can put into play to really boost your ability to fulfill the requirements of these in-game cards. Now, what's important about all these actions that you've chosen in the second phase of a round is the fact that in the third phase, you all will be doing these simultaneously. Now, the third action available to you is upgrading a city. So one of the big things you're going to probably do is add a second row of buildings. Now, your second row can never extend past your bottom row of buildings, but you don't have to match up different districts from the bottom to the top. So you can start a new row of buildings and move out from there, getting more and more resources or attributes for your city, I should say, as you put those into play. And those building cards, again, are going to do vastly different things. Some have dual purposes. Some may give you more attributes based on different number of buildings that you have in play. And the way that works is that you're going to add second row to your play board, and you have to pay 5 production cost in order to do that. Or you can choose to upgrade your palace level. Again, you'll need to spend production to do this, and for every level it's going to cost you more and more. So starting with level 1, that's going to cost you 5 production, all the way up to level 5, which will cost you 9 production. So whenever you move up to a level here though, you'll get everything below it, which is really nice. So typically you're going to be moving up science, or you're going to be getting diamonds. Now, what are diamonds for? So as you acquire diamonds, you'll put them on the buildings you have in play, and then you'll have to start to fan out from there and making them adjacent to each other. But the thing is that you want to place them on cards and definitely put things together in the way where you have diamonds that are located in the bottom corner of the card. So if there's only a single diamond there and you put a diamond on it, you'll get double the value, boost that card big time. And or if there's 2 diamonds and you place 2 on that card, you'll get triple the value of that card. So those things really start to come into play. Upgrading a palace is really important through the whole game because those are really going to aid you, giving you more science, giving you those diamonds, really upping your attribute value for your different city cards. So that's really the basics of play. Now, how and why you put all these things together are really going to be dictated by what the demands the king has. So again, you put your buildings in, you get your attributes, your gems, you might want to be up on a certain level in science or be ahead of everyone else. Lots of different reasons that you go down different paths in this game, and I like that every time you play, it really can change up based on those demands the king has made. And also, don't forget the tech cards based on the science that you've moved up. Those tech cards are really going to come into play and aid you through the whole game, and you hope to be the first one in on those cards, because if you're not, it's going to get more and more expensive to be part of those tech cards. So you really, in the end, you hope to be the one that fulfills 2 of the king's demands first. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form, so keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, with that said, you know, the thing with this game is that it does definitely require 3 or 4 players, but I know in the stretch goals they're going to be working for a 2-player mode, so I'm really interested to see how that works and how that plays. But, you know, there's so many interesting choices, so many interesting directions to go with only 3 basic actions that you're doing in this game. Keeping it all secret in your planning book and moving forward, creating your city, trying to do the best you can do to fulfill the king's demands. Lots of interesting choices for sure. But folks, ultimately, if this looks like something of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it from me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.